This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
Good evening, everybody involved and loving of Birmingham City Football Club. It's your old pal Al, the chairman, and if you want to subscribe, press the button, and if you want to like us, then do that too. Won't do any harm. Now then, no football last week. So what am I going to talk about regards to Birmingham City? Well, I've got one or two little things that have tweaked me cheeks over the last 7 days. And let's start with our international players who shot off round the world to play in various meaningless international matches. No, to be fair, because of the Euro Nations League, they all are technically competitive internationals. But there's a lot of flying and a lot of travelling done by our men. And let's start with Willem Williamson, who played half a game against Wales and was removed at half time, quite justifiably, because I watched that game and he did very little and was hooked off half time when Iceland were 2-0 down. Ironically, our old boy Jordan James ran the show for Wales, and it was looking like a fine performance. However, without our Icelandic star, Iceland managed to pull back to 2-2. Now, also on the bench for Iceland was Sam Stead, who didn't get on in either of their games. So he's probably done probably 20 hours sitting on his backside in a plane, flying around Europe, and played no games. And Willemson has played 45 minutes. So that's the first one. Lyndon Dykes, he played for Scotland, and they, of course, lost, as they always do. And the two games they played ended, I think that they drew 0-0 with Portugal. Or was that Wales? But anyway, again, Pak Sung Ho has travelled from Birmingham to South Korea, right? Which has got to be a 14-hour flight, at least 14 hours, and arrived in his home country, where they defeated the mighty Iraq 3-2. And his contribution was he came on a sub after 85 minutes. What a journey, eh? Go all that way for 5 minutes. But I've not finished yet. So 3 days later, they've got another match, this time in Jordan. So from Korea to Jordan, it's going to be another 8 hours, right? And in this gap, Korea beat the mighty Jordan 2-0. And our man Pak Sung Ho was substitute after 90 minutes. So and then obviously he had to get back here. Now whether he came direct from Jordan to here, I don't know. But surely they didn't fly him back to Korea and then. So by my reckoning, he did at least 30 hours in 4 days on a plane for 6 minutes football. Now, tell me the logic behind that. Did they really need to take him? Did we really need to have a player cooped up in a plane for 30 hours? No, I don't think so. This is lunacy. Um, anyway, congratulations to Korea on their 2 wins. Now, who else did we have? We had uh, uh, 10, 15, 20, 25, 35 million pound striker, uh, Jay Stanfield. He was picked for England under 21s, who played 2 home games, so he didn't have to travel so far. First one was in Bournemouth, and after well, I watched most of the game, and after 89 minutes, England was still losing 1-0, and no sign of Stansfield being shoved on to get them a goal. They did actually get a goal after 89 minutes, and another one after 91 minutes to nick the game, uh, 2-1. Now, looking up the details of the game on my phone, I was surprised to find that Stansfield wasn't even on the bench. So they've dragged him away from us uh, for no reason. Come 2 nights later, they go to Bristol, where they take on the mighty Azerbaijan and slash them 7-0. And still Stansfield is not in the squad. So what was he doing there? He could have been training with Alfie May and getting their understanding with each other. But no, he's going to sit and watch this lot. No point. No point whatsoever. So there's 2 ways of looking at this, I suppose. Uh, if they've done all that travelling for so very little um, football, does that suit us? We get all our players back fit, and hopefully, in the case of Pak Sung Ho, he's chomping at the bit to get out on the field and play some football. But you have to remember that he spent 30 hours on a plane in the last 3 or 4 days. Now, that ain't going to do anybody any good. Boy, he's got to do some loosening up between now and Saturday. Um, anyway, that's that's that's. I told you what should happen last week, and basically all these international matches should be played in late May and June at the end of the season. The domestic seasons all around the world finish beginning of May, and then all those that are involved can clear off and do what they like, and they won't have to. They go to Korea, they go to Korea, but at least they'll play in Korea, and then the next game they will play somewhere in Asia, and then they can have a week's holiday and fly back to their homeland, sorry, Britain, uh, in time for pre-season training. Now, wouldn't that be a better idea? Anyway, what else has gone on? Well, Mr. Wagner came under a bit of fire because he had the nerve to question the powers that be, that what were they going to do to help build our new stadium and our new complex. Well, it seems a reasonable enough question, doesn't it? If you're going to spend a couple of £1 billion, you want to know that the council can put a bus on to get there and a train and so on. That seems a reasonable argument. But no, the press took this up as saying that he'd gone there and said, if you don't do this, don't do that, we're clearing off. Well, nothing further from the truth. He was just doing his job. This is what we're doing, and we need you to supply X, Y, and Z. Trains from London, buses from Quinton, whatever. But that is what he was asking, and of course, we, we we've got a Labour council who are bankrupt. We've got a Labour West Midland mayor, and of course we've got a Labour government. Now, what Mr. Wagner was asking for was the cooperation of all these three people. And the press used it to talk about, oh, well, the government won't do this, and the West Midland Council won't do that, and the Birmingham Council won't do that. Well, they haven't had the opportunity yet. Um, and it's about the worst thing you could be is uh, a Labour member of Parliament or the council or whatever, and be a Birmingham City fan, because you're going to get kicked in the short and curlies every step of the way, because the Birmingham Mail, as we used to call it in the old days, the Villa Times, was so biased against us it was untrue, and to be fair, there were reasons for that, but the club is supplying these journalists with a living. They spend nothing. They don't write about anything, some of them, but us. Where we're going there, what did we do this week? Who's injured, who's not injured, who's on international duty, and so on. It's an app. It's a piece of cake. I can sit here every morning and write a column about Birmingham City, and never leave this seat. It's such it's such a goal. I mean, they used to say, "Well, Barry Fry was always good for a headline." Well, Tom Wegner is always good for a national headline or an international headline. He makes news in America. He makes news here. He makes news around the world, and that is what our press should be concentrating on, not trying to catch him out. Oh, are you going to pull out? Pull out? If you don't get the number 15 bus to go past the ground, are you going to pull out? No, absolute nonsense. Anyway, Saturday, Lincoln City. Now, when I started considering that, I was thinking to myself, I don't remember us playing at Lincoln. None at all. I've been to Lincoln. I've been to their ground. I saw them play on a spare Saturday where I did the ground, and I think they played Burnley and lost. But it's a nice little ground, and it's a lovely town. Um, but I can't remember. Anyway, obviously I looked it up, and it was 1954, the last time we turned up at Lincoln City. And to be fair, in 1954, probably in the second division there, Birmingham City were, compared to Lincoln City, probably the same as they are now. Um, so it's it's. I looked up there. We've played each other about 30 odd times and won 20 odd to their 6 or 7. So if we look at history, it's a long time ago. It goes back to the 20s, and I don't think we lost there many times. But it's interesting that suddenly there's a club that whose ground we've never been to. Well, I was 3 when the last time they went, so that tells you how long ago it is. Um, a couple of little stories about playing Lincoln at St Andrews. First time was 1969. Well, first time in my lifetime was 1969, and we played. We'd been to the semi-final of the FA Cup the year before and lost to the Albion. And this year, I think we played Cardiff in the third round and beat them something like 5-2. Um, and both of us in the second division then. And then in the fourth round, we beat Lincoln City 2-1, and they gave us it wasn't the greatest performance, but we managed to, you know, not slip on the banana sort of thing and knock them out. 20 odd thousand there, 25, 30,000. And brought us in line. In the fifth round, we played Manchester United, 50 odd thousand. Again, it was obviously the game had been called off, I'm sure, and it was a midweek game, and we drew 2-2. Davidson equalised late on with the penalty, and George Best George Best gave away the penalty by handling it. He was trying to be clever and juggling it on his knee, and somebody got closer to him, and he sort of flipped it. Anyway, Manchester United fans weren't too happy with this decision, and it was the first time in my life that I found myself in danger of being minced by these nutters. But the old man, who was a bit of a hard bugger, um, took a swing of one of them, missed him by a foot, and this guy fell back. And about 30 of these Manchester United nutters were sprayed across the Kop terracing without ever anybody touching them. Um, but I digress. The next time Lincoln City came to St Andrews was in the Leyland Daft Trophy in 1990. And I have to admit, and forgive me for this, but I actually went to the theatre that night to watch chess. And as we're coming home, supporters are coming out of the ground, and I shouted, "How you get on, mate? 1-2-0. Oh, great. Got home. Read the reports, and can you guess what the gate was that night? 2,900 and a few more. 2,900. Can you imagine what? I mean, the ground at that time held 50,000. And I think there were. I saw a film of the game, and I'm sure there were kids kicking the ball about on the terraces because they were so bored. So that was probably the nadir of Birmingham City's fortunes, 1990. And of course, we went on to win that competition. Uh, and probably we had 3 or 4 managers getting us to the final, but of course it was Lou Macari in the end. So that's our history with Lincoln City. Lincoln City find themselves 4th place in the division, and on paper it looks like a contest. But I keep reminding people the reason that Lincoln and Mansfield and Blackpool are suddenly in the playoff shake-up is because all the people that should be in that sort of level, we've dispatched quite comfortably. Uh, Wrexham, Peterborough, Rotherham have come and gone, and they should be in these people's places, but they got beat by us. So it's now Lincoln and Mansfield's turn, and after our defeat, I was, worried. You know, is this winning's a habit, losing's a habit? Can we? But fortunately, we had the Shrewsbury game where we just fielded a second team and minced them, absolutely minced them. Probably disappointed that we only got 4, to be honest. And I've got a bone to pick, and I don't know his name. But somebody tweeted me and pointed out that a certain player who had been out injured had come back into the side and received a pass from somebody, which was an absolute hospital ball, and had been robbed of the ball and finished up having to chase him back. Well, there was no danger from that. And the comment was, "Good, we'll soon have him out the club." Now, what kind of person writes that kind of stuff? We can all have our opinions about people, but why should we want them out the club? And ironically, the player concerned probably created our best goal of the season. An absolute defence splitting pass found Scott Wright. He crossed it, and there was my mate Iwata with his right foot rattling the ball into the top corner of the net for probably certainly the goal of that game, but probably the goal of the month. So whoever's not in the team and comes into the team is Not, we're great, we can get rid of him. Quite the opposite. The more people who we have in that squad, the better. Now, Jack Jack Buchanan hasn't kicked a ball for us this year, but he's getting close. Now, when they stick him in, probably against Fulham under 21s in a fortnight's time, uh, do we want him to play well, or do we want to get rid of him? Doesn't make any sense, does it? We've got a great left back at the moment in Cochrane, but when we signed Buchanan, he was probably the best fullback in the Championship. Now he's playing, or will be playing, in League One. And we're going to have two fullbacks who are better than anything in the division. And when Laird comes back, we'll probably have three right backs better than anybody in the division. And we've got two reserve centre halves who we've got Sanderson, who will cover at the moment for Clara, and O'Brien, who will cover for Bielik. Four top class defenders. And when people start talking to me and say, "Oh, what do you think we should change?" Anything you like. You can change anything you like. You can leave Stansfield out if you want. Be silly to do, but you could, and it wouldn't weaken the side. Not really, because we play a different formation with him not in the side, which would make us equally successful than when we have him in. And look around at every position. Do you remember Luke Morris? He's hardly played for 6 weeks, but when he did, he scored a wonderful goal at Wickham, and we've replaced him with Iwata. Now, people said, "Who's this bloke?" But after 2 games, he's the world's best. And poor Harris, Luke Harris, and Mark Leonard can't get a sniff at the team. But I guarantee you, on Saturday, all those people will be sitting on the bench waiting their chance. And when things start to go wrong, like Bielik getting injured and he's out for 6 weeks, are we going to worry about that? No. Of course we'd like him in. Of course we'd like to have a team of internationals churning up the League One. But we've got two teams that can do that. In fact, we ought to lend 11 players to, I don't know, Crawley, and then we'll have a decent game between the two of them when we visit Crawley in December. Now, before you start saying, careful what you say and don't be too arrogant and I got to be honest. There's a little bit of tongue in cheek in this because, of course, as Charlton proved, you can go and lose a game as easy as that. It suddenly doesn't work for you. You give away a sloppy goal, and the opposition batten down the hatches, and you ain't gonna score. That's the way shocks happen. You think about cup finals that have mysteriously Wigan against Man City. What was the score? 1-0. Wimbledon and Liverpool. What was the score? 1-0. Sunderland against Leeds. What was the score? 1-0. Now, it can happen. That defeat a fortnight ago was an accident waiting to happen, to be honest. We're going to have one of them days where we can't find the net. And that game should have ended 0-0. And we made a mistake and whatever. And it fell nicely to their bloke who managed to hook it in the net and win the game. Now, all those games I mentioned, Wigan's FA Cup win, and Wimbledon, Sunderland, weren't great footballing goals. One was from a corner, two were from corners. Um, you know, it can happen. Even the best teams suddenly find themselves, oh, who's marking in? Bump, it's in the net. Goodbye. It can happen. And we've got another 38 games or whatever it is for it to happen again. Now, all we can do is reduce the number of times that it happens. Now, Lincoln City are on a bit of form, but so were Wrexham, so were Peterborough, so were Rotherham, and we put them to sleep. Now, I'm expecting that to happen on Saturday, especially as it's virtually a new ground for us, treading new waters, as it were. But in the back of my mind, you're thinking, it's no good me sitting here and thinking, oh dear, we could lose to Lincoln. Well, we could lose to everybody, but we won't. And my real gut feeling is that we'll give this side a bit of a walloping. And it might end up 1-0 to us. It might end up 1-0 to them. But hey, if I didn't give you an opinion, it wouldn't be worth watching, would it? Anyway, I'm going to say goodbye now. God bless you all. Look forward to Saturday. And following week, before I see you again, we're also going to play Bolton at home. Be there or be square. And that'll be another one that we could win 1-0 or lose 1-0 or win 4 or 5. God bless you all.